This is such a wonderful center for food production and cooking, cuisine, all of it. So very appropriate, I think, to debate and settle the question of what is Canadian cuisine in Stratford, Ontario. To lead things off, I'm going to ask the panelists, in the order that they're sitting, to answer a question. And the question is, if right at this moment a spaceship landed next to us, next to the City Hall here, and a bunch of Martians came into the room and said, "Where are we?" We said, "Well, you're in Canada." And they said, "Well, you know, what do you eat here? What is Canadian cuisine?" How would we answer it? And Daniel, because you are sitting closest to me, will lead with your answer.
I just want to say that was a bum rap because I was sitting over there. But you know what? It would really depend on the day that these Martians came. If they came on a Monday or Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Thursday, or Friday, I would say, you guys get back in the shed, come back on a Saturday or Sunday, come to the farmer's market, come sit down with us and eat. Because I mean, if I talk about the idea of what makes cuisine for me, it's farmers markets. That's, I'm a producer. That's where I sell and I have my relationships with people, and that's where I see people getting excited about food. So I would want them to come to a farmers market and then run screaming in terror because aliens are moving there.
Okay, so I'm going to say that sounds a bit like a terrorist model for what is Canadian food. Canadian food is what comes out of Canadian ground. Maybe Anita, you've written books on the subject. What do you say?
Good. Well, it would be appropriate that they would come to this room because this is where, in 1993, that the first and only conference began that was called Northern Bounty. And it was right there that I stood up there to open the conference in that year. It was pretty incredible. I tell them that to understand the food, they would have to understand Canada, the land. And with its land mass of almost 10 million square kilometers. And with the longest coastline on Earth as well, that every Canadian has 1.4 hectares of arable farmland, and we have much of the world's fresh water. I would tell them that in this city they landed, that it's rich in food history, and this city particularly has had a stunning impact on the food life of Canada. Sending forth dozens and dozens of amazing chefs who are changing the regional food lives of the regions in which they land. That's my response.
Well, it's interesting they have three of us up to compete against Anita because, as we were just joking, she's written 3 books on this and is the queen of Canadian cuisine, so be Anita against the 3 of us. Hopefully she's going to be gentle on us. I would first of all ask if I would assume that the Martians, first of all, are carnivores, so I'd point to the person beside me and say they're Canadian cuisine, so they'd be eaten before I would. But if I was to answer, I would have to say that they could ask me what I think Canadian cuisine is, but I also suggest that they go and ask a whole pile of other people because Canadian cuisine is individual, depending on where we come from and our backgrounds, and they would have to get their own opinion based on asking 10 other people besides just me.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one for quite a long time, and I think if you talk about what is cuisine or what defines a cuisine, I think in reference to me, you have to define it based on what we consider a cuisine, like Mexican, Italian, Spanish, Chinese. They all seem to have cuisines. I don't know if they have debates in their country saying what is Chinese cuisine, because they have thousands of years to have developed this cuisine. And one thing I learned in Stratford is as these countries have developed their own cuisine, they had nobility and peasants to develop that cuisine from 2 different angles. So the French have nobility, so they have the grand cuisine, and then they have peasant dishes that equally define a cuisine. And obviously because Canada is so big, and and so incredibly young, I may be sitting here saying we don't have one. Dun, dun, dun. Or we're working on it. You know, I really believe, and we, you know, the fact that it's almost unanswerable, this question, leads me to believe that we don't have a defined cuisine. So there, aliens. There's my answer.